They weren't saying, I want to last longer in bed. They were saying, I want to be able to last longer in bed. And to me, to be able to is exactly the definition of confidence. Confidence is feeling that you will be able to. You are able to. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily doing it. It means that you don't walk around all day thinking that you're not able to, right? Or that you don't walk around wishing that you were able to. You feel settled and confident in that you are able to. Fill in the blank with whatever it is that you see is the thing that is getting in between you and the sex life that you desire.
Do you ever feel pressure to perform during sex? What if you stopped chasing performance and started focusing on connection? Today in the lab, we're joined by Caitlin V, sex and relationship coach, author, and media personality whose work has been featured on HBO Max, TLC, Oprah Magazine, Cosmopolitan, and more. Caitlin has spent over a decade helping people navigate performance anxiety, erectile inconsistency, and confidence struggles. In this conversation, we break down what confidence in bed really means and why most sexual challenges are far more common than people think. If you've ever felt stuck in your head during sex or wanted a sexual confidence boost, this episode's for you. Welcome to Sexology Lab. Welcome, Caitlin.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being with us today. I want to start out with a summary of a review from your new book. This is from Dr. Justin Lehmiller. Harder, Better, Longer, Stronger is the user manual that probably should have come with your body, whether you're looking to build up your confidence, cultivate deeper connection with a partner, or simply have hotter sex. Caitlin V has you covered. Equal parts science, skill building, and pep talk. This book is a bedside essential. So what do you think when you hear that review?
I mean, I think about what an honor it is to have Dr. Justin Lehmiller's endorsement on my book. And that speaks to all the things that I hope that the book will provide. You know, when I sat down to write a book on the last 10 years as a sex coach, specifically working with men, there were so many things to say and so many things that I had to cut out and remove. And what I wanted to get it down to essentially was like the minimum amount of information that would make the greatest amount of difference in the shortest amount of time. It's 75,000 words. It's not like a short chunk of time. It actually is if you really think about my 20 years career and time as a researcher and time as a coach. Like there's so much to say. So I do hope that it comes off as a user manual, and I do hope that it is a bedside table staple.
I know, I love that. I think my favorite part of it was the phrase user manual. So if most people never got this user manual, what do you think they actually needed earlier? Was it more information, more permission, or more compassion for how our bodies actually work?
Yeah, well, first of all, A, B, and C, all of the above. The ironic thing is we live in a world where we are inundated with information. There's information overload happening. And yet sex is an area in which there's still truly a dearth of information available to most people. The information that is available is low quality, sporadic, few and far between. And it seems to me, through my perspective, is that it's actually getting harder and harder to get quality information. And so interestingly enough, I actually do think that this is an instance where more information makes a difference. Number one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of areas where more information doesn't help people anymore. Like they've hit information, they're tapped out. They're saturated. But this is not that case, especially for men, because I think women, cis women in particular, get more information. LGBT folks also get more sexuality education and information. I think it's like cis het men get the least amount of information. So quality information in the hands of more men is better. And then, yes, permission. The great irony of it all is that when we look at heterosexual men's sexuality as a whole, we do think about them as the only group of people who are truly permitted to be sexual on one level, right? It's nothing to see a school bus full of middle schoolers drive by and they're drawing little penises in the window. And so there's a lot of permissiveness when it comes to men's sexuality. And yet at the same time, it's a very narrow kind form and expression of sexuality that there is permission for. And there's very little permission to break outside of that and color outside of the lines. On the other hand, women and non-binary and LGBTQIA folks have a lot more permission just across the board, even though the permission that they're granted is very broad. It doesn't seem so like culturally mainstream or culturally relevant. So there's this sort of great irony. Like we all have a certain degree and a certain kind of permission. And when we talk about male ego or male fragility or heterosexual male sexuality as being fragile. What we really are referring to is that very narrow sliver. And that men who step outside of that sliver in their expression and their desires are at the greater risk of being culturally or socially punished. And yet, actually, when they give themselves permission to sort of like break out of what is quote unquote allowed for them, they quickly find that actually they were trapped inside of that, and that the range of their desire and eroticism is so much greater than that tiny little sliver that they were prescribed.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. All right, next I want to jump into your origin story. So, can you tell us your 30-second origin story? How did you find your way into intimate health coaching, and when did you realize this is my specialty?
Started as a kid exploring with myself, got to school and realized that the disease and pregnancy prevention model was not telling the pleasure-centered story that I think sexuality deserves. Didn't know how to make that a career, so became an academic researcher, master's in public health, dropped out of my doctorate in public health in order to start coaching, ended up on YouTube, ended up on HBO Max, ended up writing a book. And I started coaching because I saw that the work that I was doing as an educator was more valuable and more interesting to me than the work that I was doing as an academic. And I wanted to have a space where I could work with folks one-on-one capacity or one-on-two capacity and literally see their lives change.
Yeah. Oh, that's fabulous. That was a great summary. I love it. 30 seconds in a nutshell. All right, Caitlin, what is one trend happening in intimate coaching that genuinely excites you?
I was at my yoga studio the other day, and there's like a community board, people post the classes that they're doing or like dog sitting opportunities or whatever. And someone posted about being a erotic empowerment coach. There was certainly a time not that long ago, 10-ish years ago, when I started publicly calling myself a sex coach, that there were not many of us out there. Mm-hmm. There were sex educators, there were sex therapists, but like sex coach was sort of an unheard of category. But in that instance, what I saw on that board was the result of 10 years of me and 20 and 30 years of other folks who've been in the field longer, and us sort of like popularizing the term life coaching taking over and having the sort of like influence that has had, the normalization of coaching, the normalization and proliferation of executive coaching, career coaching. I think it means something that I saw that posted on a billboard. And I think what it means even more interesting than that is that it was someone that I'd never heard of. And each year, it seems to me like I'm nominated for Sexpert of the Year. By the time this comes out, we'll know whether or not I have won, but I'm nominated for Sexpert of the Year from XBiz. And so anyways, it's really exciting to me. It's exciting to see all these folks jumping in. It's exciting to me to see more people utilizing social media platforms. And I kind of feel like they can't get us all. So it's exciting to see people posting on billboards. It's just exciting to see like new coaches popping up, because listen, we talk about abundance and scarcity mentalities. Like there are enough clients and enough followers and enough subscribers and enough people that need help that all of us could have full books until the day that we die. I promise you this. It is just a matter of making sex coaching feel like the most obvious solution and normalizing sex coaching such that it becomes a mainstream thing. It was not that long ago that having a therapist was really something that you did if you had a mental illness, right? It was reserved for folks who needed, quote unquote, needed therapy, right? And had problems and that necessitated therapy. But now we look at someone and we're like, you don't have a therapist?
Right.
You just out here processing with the people you love? What are you thinking? Like, come on. And there's apps and you can get therapy for like next to nothing. And we just normalize therapy so much that it's no longer shame-based and it's no longer reserved for a small portion of the population. It's a normal thing for people to have therapists. And I want to see that happen with sex coaches. And I just want it to be a normal thing that people just do, and everybody's got a sex and relationship coach. And I think we're headed there, and that's what I'm most excited about.
Oh, I love that. What a great comparison, because that's so true. Even in the movies, like we saw growing up, the therapist ideal was like somebody laying on a couch, like talking about their childhood trauma. Like that was what you saw. And it wasn't what it is today. And now it's understood and accepted and needed. All right. Now I want to know if you could teach the world one key insight about intimate health, something that really moves the needle. What would it be?
I have a Patreon, and every month I do an Ask Me Anything. And this morning, it ended up pulling on all of my organic chemistry know-how from my master's degree, which I will tell you is not much. I was a good student. And one of the things that it really reminded me today is I was having this conversation with a group of men. They're here because I am a sex coach, right? Not because I am a health coach. And certainly not because I am an expert in supplements, but they're asking me about the relationship between digestive issues and erectile dysfunction. And they're asking me about probiotics, digestive enzymes, serotonin, how to heal a gut, all of these things. And I think what I kind of took away from that conversation and how invested my Patreon members were in having it, what I want people to really get is how deeply integrated everything is. How the body is just a reflection of the mind, is a reflection of the spirit. How being able to feel and describe in felt sense our emotions is really as key to giving them names. I want people to understand that your gut does affect your sexual health. I want people to understand that taking supplements that support your brain may also support your relationships, and that a rising tide raises all ships. So if you have some concerns, you think that maybe your hormones are out of whack or your digestion is out of whack, like you deserve to continue to do research and seek answers and have professionals that validate your experience, and to understand that all of these things really are connected. And I think as long as you are addressing the whole from every angle, like, yeah, totally get your supplement game up. Allow yourself to feeling better in your physical body. That will have a positive impact on your relationships and on your sexuality. Healing your gut can impact the way that you experience yourself erotically. We are just a singular system. These are not discrete systems, and they do all impact the whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Everything is interconnected. All right. Now at Shaw, we train many people who are wanting to work in the intimate health and relationship space. So what's the most important thing professionals need to know about this space?
I love this question because, as I think you know about me, I think a lot of people know about me, I love business. I didn't expect that when I dropped out of my doctoral program and became a coach. I was totally terrified to be an entrepreneur. The first business coach that I hired, who by the way is still with me 7+ years later, I hired him because I wasn't doing a good job of managing myself, because I am a creative type and I am neurospicy. And I was just like, what do I do to get myself? I need to corral myself and get myself under control, because I didn't want to form a S Corp or an LLC, and I didn't know that I needed to get a business checking account, and I wasn't doing all the things. I knew on one hand that I ought to be doing these things, but I needed some external accountability, because that's how my brain works. When someone else tells me get that done by Thursday, it's a lot easier than if I tell myself to get that done by Thursday.
Right.
And what happened over time is I developed a love for these things. But I want everyone to know, if you are an up and coming coach, there is nothing different about me and you. You think that spreadsheets are spooky and scary, or that signing up to take credit cards or getting that business checking account or setting up your calendar so that you can more easily schedule your clients or whatever, like, it was scary for me too. All of these things, I had to talk myself into doing those things. I had to hype myself up in order to push go or sign up for that or set up the technology. And now I have a team of people and they support me, and I don't have to do those things so much anymore. But I, just like most other entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, had to go through all of those steps. And I had to talk down the little demon on my shoulder that was like, you're not good enough and you can't figure this out and you'll never be able to, and yada, yada, yada. And I had to say to myself, you know what? If Joe Schmo can go out there and set up an LLC or an S Corp, then I bet I can too.
Yeah.
And if the people down the street that own that like store that kind of annoys you in your neighborhood, they figured it out. You know, they have a business checking account. You can too. And you know what they say about comparison, that it is the thief of joy? Well, I like to say that is only if you're comparing poorly. If you are comparing in a way that empowers you, if you're looking at other people and you go, oh, you know what? Like, if they figured it out, I can too. Get your butt into the bank, set up your business checking account, formalize your business. So that's the first thing that I want people to know, is that, like, yeah, you're scared. It's okay that you're scared. These things are not fun. If they were fun, more people would do them, period.
Right.
End of story. You can do them. There's nothing different about me and you. Yeah, I've built a million subscribers on social media. I started with one, okay? There's nothing different about us. Don't compare yourself to someone who has 1 million subscribers when you only have one, right? Like, that's not, compare yourself to someone who has 2 subscribers, okay? Like, that's where you're going to get better. If you have resources that are going to teach you how to do it and people who can hold your hand and support you through it, you're so far ahead of everybody else. The second thing about that is you will have to sell. I know I'm sounding like your business coach auntie right now, because I want every single up and coming or established coach who listens to this to be a multimillionaire. I want you to have a retirement account. I want you to have a second home or a car, or put your kid through college, or at least have enough money that you don't have to check the tags when you go shopping. Like, I want you to have that. I think you deserve that. I think you're doing incredible work. I think we're doing the Lord's work out here. Sex coaches are doing such incredible and important work. And I'm not saying that you should be driven by money or materialistic, but I think you should be comfortable. I think you deserve to be comfortable. I think you deserve that as much as any other career professional out there. And in order to do that, you have to sell yourself and you have to sell your services. You don't have to sell your soul. Okay. But you do have to sell. You have to make sales. You have to present what you can. You have to create value in other people's lives. You have to be confident in your willingness and ability to show up and help someone to transform what's going on in their intimate world and in their bedroom. And if you're afraid to hear no and get rejected, then you won't be able to do all of those things. You won't be able to pay for your kids' college or buy yourself the car that you want. You have to make a bridge between what you have to offer and people giving you money for it. Again, it's not a perfect system, but it is the system that we're in. And instead of fighting it in such a way that you disempower yourself, play the game, and then take it down on the other side. You can't like both rail against it and expect to succeed in it at the same time. And sales can be very embarrassing. It can feel weird. It can hurt your feelings because you'll fail at it. People are going to say no to you. You're going to mess stuff up, and people who you could have helped are going to walk away because of something that you did. It's not fun. Again, if it was fun, more people would do it. The thing that I see separating like successful coaches from unsuccessful coaches, seriously, I mean financially successful, are the successful ones are just willing to sell. And they're willing to put themselves out there. They're willing to believe in themselves. They're willing to hear no. And that's part of the game that you're signing up for if you're going to be a solo entrepreneur. So again, instead of feeling in the gnarly, icky, squicky feelings of like, I wish I didn't have to do this, I get it, feel those, and then go out there and do it anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I cannot tell you how much I love that advice, because this field is full of helping professionals, people who just want to get out there and support other people. It doesn't always necessarily attract people who are super corporate, businessy, and salesy. There's some out there, but for the most part, everybody just kind of wants to be there to help other people. But that business part is so important. So I just love everything you said. All right. I want to jump into some juicy questions for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
It's not juicy yet? Okay, what else? What else
I
you
know.
got, Michelle?
I know. I mean, it's already been pretty juicy. Okay. So we're just going to get even more juicier. What's something people worry about in sex that turns out to be far more normal than they think?
You know, pretty much anything you name that you worry about turns out to be pretty normal, especially because I work with men. I can't tell you the number of times that I've had a male client say, this is probably the first time that you've ever heard this, and then go on to tell me a story that I've heard 1,000 times. It's tragic because the reason they think they're the only one that's dealing with that is because they haven't ever seen anyone else talk about it. None of their guy friends, none of their male family members, no one in the culture, in the media, no one in a book. That's why this book is so important, the book that I wrote. I think that for men, you're dealing with premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, lack of desire, low libido, lack of confidence, feeling like you don't know how to be present or attuned or read your partner's desires. I promise you, you're definitely not the only one. And what you're dealing with is indeed very normal, very common. And part of what you can do to be a part of your own healing actually is to be the person who talks about it. Because when you surface it with other people, you will see that other folks are dealing with it as well. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage to be the one who goes first there.
Are you curious about sexology? Do you want to further integrate sexology into your work or your life? Well, friends, then we've got something just for you. It's called the Sexology Practice Guide, and it walks you through the ways this shows up in your work, in your life, and guides you through working within your scope, incorporating intimacy and sexual health into your work without starting over. Download this short, practical guide at sexologylab.com/guide. That's sexologylab.com/guide. And while you're here, make sure to subscribe and share. And now, back to the show.
Okay, so do men ever have issues where they get aroused and have erections alone, but then things get more complicated when they're with a partner?
Totally. I write about this all throughout the book, actually, in various capacities. One of the very first questions that I ask sort of in my like diagnostic intake checklist, especially for men who are dealing with any sort of erectile inconsistency, is when does this happen? All the time, some of the time, none of the time. With a partner, first thing in the morning, you used to get erections and now you don't get erections first thing in the morning. Excellent. Okay, great. great. That's perfect information. We're going to send you immediately to a physician who's going to get some blood work done. We're going to do a checkup. We're going to figure out where you are in your cardiovascular system, your endocrine system, your nervous system. We've got to check there, because if you're not getting erections, at least sometimes in the morning when you were getting them before, that is what I call a check engine light. And the engine that we got to check is the physical engine. And I say, great. It's not great that it's happening to you, but I say, great. We know exactly what the first step needs to be. I'm not saying you're not going to use coaching. You absolutely are. But we got to also refer you out to a healthcare professional. If you are getting hard in the morning and you're getting hard alone when you go to masturbate, but you're not getting hard with a partner, also great information. That means that we're going to go down a mental, emotional, and relational tract. So I'm going to be doing the work with you in coaching to figure out when this started, under what circumstances does it happen? Is it all the time? Is it some of the time? Is it when you're fighting? Is it when you're intoxicated? Is it when you're sober? Like, I want to understand what are the levers that are impacting it, the variables. And I want to understand also, is it coming from inside of your relationship? Which is like half of the time it's like inside of the relationship, and in my experience anyways, and maybe half of the time it's like outside of the relationship. And what I mean by that is like, is the relationship itself the culprit? Like, there's a lot of built up resentment. There's a lot of lack of communication. There's a lot of contempt inside of the relationship that's going on. Is it more like on your side where you're telling yourself something that's getting in the way, or you have so much tension or anxiety or concern or emotional stuff built up around sex? That is what is getting in the way. But you have a partner that's like very supportive and happy to do anything that it takes in order to have you feel comfortable. So I see it like as a whole 1,000,000-point decision tree.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So is it here or here? Do we ask these questions? We go here, here. Is it yes, no, here? And, at the end, it kind of spans out into like 1,000,000 little options. But then, hopefully they all kind of come back down into one, and all options eventually end up with satisfying sex life.
Yes. Yes. I love that. All right. This kind of leads me into my next question. So I want to know about confidence. When someone says they want more confidence in bed, what are they really asking for?
I wish I could ask that to every single person who uses the word confidence on my coaching application form. The millions of comments that I've received on YouTube. It is very true that when I ask my audience, what is it that you want? More than anything else, they say confidence. They say, I want to be able to perform and I want to be confident. And when I first learned that, when I did sort of like a word analysis, okay, so I've been at this since well before there was AI, okay?
Yeah.
You couldn't just like pop a bunch of text into a screen and be like, analyze this for me and make a report, and 30 seconds later have that. You had to like use word clouds. I put all my application forms one time into like a word cloud, and I said, like, what are the most common words? And the most common phrase was to be able to. I want to be able to, which if you think about that from just like a spoken word perspective, that's a unique phrase to use. They weren't saying I want to last longer in bed. They were saying I want to be able to last longer in bed. And to me, to be able to is exactly the definition of confidence. Confidence is feeling that you will be able to. You are able to. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily doing it. It means that you don't walk around all day thinking that you're not able to, right? Or that you don't walk around wishing that you were able to. You feel settled and confident in that you are able to. Fill in the blank with whatever it is that you see is the thing that is getting in between you and the sex life that you desire. So I want to be able to connect with my partner and have her know that I deeply love and respect her. I want to be able to have my partner reach orgasm before I do. I want to be able to clear my mind of my fear that I'm going to lose my erection because it happened that one time, and just be present with my partner because I know that my body's capable of getting hard. I think all of those things, they all point back to confidence. It's like, I just want to feel confident that I will be able to do that.
Oh, those are beautiful affirmations too. Like, for anybody listening, if that applies to you, write that down. All right. So what changes have you seen when people stop chasing performance and start paying attention to sensation and connection?
I see that people have these brilliant flashbulb, aha, breakthrough moments when it comes to closeness and connection and sex and eroticism. It's almost like you don't know what you don't know. And then all of a sudden, the men that I work with have been chasing performance like full throttle. And they've never thought to chase connection. They've never thought to chase presence. They've never thought to like just chase pleasure. And so everything that they've done was sort of the equivalent of like adding fuel to the fire. They were like, more gas, all gas, no brakes. Just keep throwing it on there, like more. When I initially present this idea to them of not more, just different, not more, over here, not more, maybe less, and also look over here, and maybe it's in a different direction. They can often be very resistant to that because they're like, what do you mean? That's not what good sex is made up of. And I'm like, okay, yeah, just maybe try it. You did hire me to tell you this, so consider trying it. There's no downside. If I'm wrong, I'll admit that I'm wrong. If you go and you test and you try it out, you aim for connection instead of performance, you aim for pleasure instead of orgasms or outcomes, specific goals. Come back next week and tell me that I was wrong. I'm open to hearing it.
Right.
But what happens is they come back next week and they're like, that was totally different. It was so different. The sex that we had, it was like incredible. Like I wasn't even thinking about the clock. We actually went for 2 hours instead of the usual 20 minutes because I wasn't focused on how long it was taking me. And it's counterintuitive. And that's what makes it so pleasant to share and to teach and to help people to open their eyes. I love working with men in particular. And part of that is because like I have a lot of sort of masculine energy about me. You heard me yelling at you that you should just do sales like your dad, I have a lot of masculine energy. So it makes sense to me that I need to understand why I'm being asked to do something before I'll do it. I need to understand how it is that it works before I want to get on board. And I need to have a degree of faith and even trust and even evidence and proof that something is worth doing before I'm going to give myself over to doing it. And those are the things that we overcome over time with our male clients that get them to the point where they're willing to pursue those things.
All right. I want to go into some tools now. So anybody listening can have some like action steps and takeaways. So what's one small shift that tends to create a surprisingly big impact for people?
Asking questions and learning how to ask questions in a way that's intentional is going to open up a portal. It's like the closet in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Like Narnia is on the other side of learning how to ask a good question. Now, the ability to ask a question might not occur to you as a small shift, because if you have never asked a question around pleasure and intimacy and relationships, then like that might feel like a huge leap. But consider that not all questions are the same size and shape. You can ask small questions too. Consider that not all questions need to be, do you want to open our relationship? Or, things that will cause
a big one.
Huge. Yeah. And I wouldn't even phrase it that way in a million years anyways. But the question that you asked tonight could be like, can we try putting a pillow under your hips? Or would you be open to turning off these lights but lighting some candles? Or can I tell you about a fantasy that I have that I think it's a little vulnerable to share? Or, is it all right if I say something to you that I've been holding on to, but it's like really important for me to share? And I don't really like it when you touch my feet like that. Just little introductory questions that begin to open up conversations that like we wouldn't have otherwise. And maybe some of the ones that I gave as examples seem quite large, but actually like if you're in a safe relationship, you should be able to explore questions together. Yeah. And the other skill that's necessary is being able to listen to the answer and stay engaged, stay connected. Don't take answers too personally. Approach questions with curiosity. But often when a client comes to me and they'll say, I'm dealing with this problem in my sex life, and I really want to do this, but I don't think my wife is open to it or whatever. And I'll go like, well, have you asked her? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, what's a series of questions that we could maybe think about introducing that would get you a perspective on what she actually thinks? Maybe she doesn't want to do that, but maybe she would if certain conditions were met. The only way we're going to get there is by asking her.
I love that so much. And I think sometimes asking one small question can really open the door, because maybe, you might ask your partner, hey, could we try a pillow under your hips tonight, or under my hips tonight, however you want to do it. And then they might be like, oh yeah, like, is there anything else? Like, and it might just open that pathway. I think that's a really great tip. Kind of on the flip side of this, what do people often assume will fix their sex life, but almost never does?
More sex.
Yes, what a good answer.
I get a lot of guys coming into my coaching practice. They're planning to come and work with me and my team. And they'll say, I really want to have sex at least twice a week. Like they've got a number in mind. Mm-hmm. And they'll say, we were having sex every day when we started dating, and then we have kids, and now we're kind of down to like once a month or 2 times a month. And I think if we just had sex twice a week, we'd be happy. I'm not here to tell anybody that is right or wrong, right? I'll just go, okay, like, great. Thank you so much for naming that as your goal. Let's talk about what it would look like for the two of you to have more sex. But more importantly, let's talk about what you think that having more frequent sex would provide you. And when we interrogate that desire a little bit further, usually what we find underneath is I want to feel more connected. I want to feel more close. I feel like we're drifting. I feel like all we are is parents. I feel like all we talk about is a kid. There's a lot kind of riding on having sex twice a week. And often what we can do is we can get to the stuff that we think having more sex is going to solve, right? Without having to just go straight for like more sex. Because often there's a very good reason that their sex life has the cadence that it does, right? It's not that both people don't want to often, often they actually do want to. Often they would really like to, but it's difficult to schedule, or it feels a little awkward to talk about, or we don't like asking for it, etc. So their cadence developed organically, but that's why it got to the way that it is. I have had plenty of clients who got there who said, like, I want to have more sex, and then worked to create conditions in which they had more frequent sex in their relationship, and then came back to me and said it was quality that I wanted, not quantity. It turns out that more is actually not better. And I'll say, yeah, I think for the most part, what we really want is high quality sex at a frequency that feels manageable, if just a little bit of a stretch, like a little difficult to maintain, but not very difficult to maintain, right? We want it to be quality. That's more likely to have us feel connected, loved, appreciated, like we have our spouse back after having children. It's gonna live in the quality.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Is sex a learnable skill, or is it a talent that you either have or you don't?
It is a skill, absolutely. And is also something that some people are born with more capacity for and more intelligence than others. We know that there is more than just the way that we think about intelligence, right? Like standard, like mental intelligence, what they measure on an IQ test, right? We know that there's also emotional intelligence and kinesthetic intelligence. And I think there's also erotic intelligence. I earnestly think that there are some people who just come to planet Earth and kind of understand touch and pleasure and orgasm, and they just were born for it, just the same way that some people were born to do math, and some people were born to be athletes because they understand where their body is in space and they can move it, or they dance the way that. And then there are those of us who had to learn. I was very low on kinesthetic intelligence. I could not tell you where my limbs were until I was like in my 30s. I had to train to learn that. So it is something that is a little bit innate. We are born with it too. But no one is fully born understanding like calculus. Even if you have an aptitude for it, you still need to be trained on it, right? So you might have the foundational pieces that come really easy to you, and you still learn, you still develop. When you have the foundational pieces, the thing about developing skills is that it's a lot easier because you never tell yourself that you're bad at it, that you're doing it wrong, that you'll never get it. For me, for example, partner dance, low kinesthetic intelligence, okay? Didn't know where my limbs were. And so I tried to learn partner dance, and I was already feeling pretty insecure about learning it because I don't know where my limbs are. So keeping track and counting and 1 through 8 and where foot goes here and arms go here is a lot. It wasn't until I decided to give myself permission to just suck at it, just like be a total beginner and just be bad at it. I was just like, what if I was just allowed to be bad? What if bad was all I was trying to be? And then inevitably I got pretty good at it because I didn't beat myself up for not just like knowing it right out the gate. And once I understood, like, oh, I just have low kinesthetic intelligence, I've got more to make up for than someone who is born with high kinesthetic intelligence. That's all. I think we could look at eroticism in the same way. You might be born with low erotic intelligence. It's not a bad thing. You can learn it. I'm a pretty good partner dancer now. You would see me swing dancing and you would be like, she knows what she's doing. Well, yeah, it took me years to get here, but I got here, right? And it was worth it. It was worth it. It was worth every step along the way. It was worth the awkwardness. It was worth having to develop those skills. In fact, I would argue that it was more fun for me than someone who is foundationally just talented at it, because I got to have the experience of improving week over week. I got to watch myself. I got to go, yes, I learned that thing. I got it now, right? It was a joyous experience because I allowed it to be. We're all born with a various degree of erotic intelligence, and every single one of us has to build skills on top of that in order to be a great lover, period, non-negotiable. That's just how it is. And some people have a wider skill gap to make up for than others, but the thing to celebrate there is that you are going to have more moments of high fives, joy, celebration. I did it if you allow yourself to not be perfect at it right out the gate.
That is so great. What a good example. So when you were saying that, it reminded me the other day, I asked my daughter, I was like, hey, do you want to play softball this year? And she's like, well, I don't think I want to play because I'm not good at it. And I was like, well, it's just a rec league. Like you go there and you learn how to play and you become better.
I so deeply resonate with your daughter on that one though, because team sports were just brutal for me. And then, I like eventually learned how to I took Pilates long enough to learn where my body was. And now I can catch and throw things and move kind of with ease. But it took literally years. I didn't have the guts to do it until I was older because I just told myself I wasn't athletic. So find your way in. Don't discount it just because softball is not your thing or volleyball is not your thing in my case.
All right. Now I want to do a lightning round with you. Okay. So lightning round, I'm going to ask you a quick question and I just want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Number 1, most underrated skill for better sex.
Very first thing that I thought of is like breath work, but actually that is true. The most underrated skill is having a relationship with your breath, that you breathe deep, feel things, take deep breaths, even during moments of high intensity, even being able to hold your breath for long periods of time. All of that can come in handy. So breathing.
Yep. Breathing. I love that. One thing people worry about in bed that does not deserve the stress.
Stretch marks.
Everybody's got them. Yep.
You mean my like the things that make me look like a zebra? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, my little animal marks? Yeah, those are my stripes.
A belief about sex you would love to retire for good.
You have to have had it to be good at it. I talk to a lot of guys who identify as sort of like sexually inexperienced. This is a message that's very common for men. It's like, you should have a lot of sexual experience, right? So then they feel insecure or self-conscious. But like I was saying earlier, some people are born pretty good at sex. They just learn some skills and then they're really good at it. It's not strictly about practice. It can sometimes be about what you've learned, your skills, your innate intelligence. Quit beating yourself up for having experience or not having experience. Experience and skill are not necessarily a one-to-one correlation.
Yeah, what a great answer. All right, my last one for the lightning round. What helps arousal more than people might expect?
Fantasy in the days, hours, the time ahead. Just giving yourself permission to fantasize generally, or setting some time aside to fantasize or engage in remembering some sexy memories or putting together some sexy plot lines or listening to some sexy or erotic or reading something, but like having a little bit of, I would even call it sort of daydreamy sexual time is really beneficial for arousal.
Great one. Love that. All right, now my last one before we go. You presented with Shaw in the past at our business summit. So I want to know, what did you think about presenting with us?
Oh, it was so much fun. I'm sure it was clear to everyone listening. I do love business. And it was so fun to get to talk to an audience of folks that was very eager and they were paying attention and they were asking amazing questions. I remember wishing that I had left more time for questions because it was just so rich. Yeah, it was really, really, really pleasurable to get to share that with folks. And the feedback was that it was helpful. So that feels, that's what we're here to do, right? Is help each other. So It was rewarding.
I love that. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. If you are interested in learning more from experts like Caitlin V, check out our upcoming events on our website at sexualhealthalliance.com. Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen. Links are in the description below.